When you envision the future, do you imagine a technologically advanced society in which robots do unwanted tasks so that humanity is free to engage in leisure? Or an apocalyptic hellscape in which the machines rule the world? In other words, the Jetsons or the Matrix? It may sound like a far-fetched question of cinema, but at its core is precisely the question that Pope Leo asked society this week in his new encyclical, Magnifica Humanitatis. Will the technology we create serve the magnificence of the human person or enslave it? In this document, he addresses everything from AI to cryptocurrency, warfare to disinformation. What is the Church's stance on these new technologies, and how should we be building our future? This is Catholicism in Focus. In the first line of the document, Pope Leo presents us with two images used to frame the encyclical: the Tower of Babel and the rebuilding of the city of Jerusalem. A line I instinctively read with a smile because I knew the man was about to cook. The images he presents serves the same purpose as my Jetsons Matrix dichotomy, albeit in a more eloquent and biblically grounded way. It is one between self-sufficiency, pride, forced uniformity and exclusion of gods, the Tower of Babel, and collaboration, fasting and prayer and working for the common good, Nehemiah's approach to rebuilding Jerusalem. This is the choice placed before humanity in the wake of new powerful technologies capable of reshaping the world and building society. Leo does not question our need to build or the use of these new technologies. These tasks we inherit. What he questions is how we will do so and what values will guide us. How will we regulate these technologies? Who benefits from them? How will power be used? Who gets to hold the power? And how will the least and the lowest of society be affected? Questions that the Pope absolutely has the right to ask and answer, a point that he takes 2 chapters to ensure everyone understands. Responding, it seems, to criticisms that the Pope should stay out of politics or that religion has no place in society, Leo appropriately places the Church within the world, not as a replacement of civil authorities or in competition for political power, but rather the mission entrusted to the Church prompts her to address the real suffering of men and women of our time. The gospel compels us to be engaged in the world, not to offer a definitive option or to dominate, but rather to promote communion. A task of the Church that has been in place for centuries, but took on a more focused effort with Leo XIII 135 years ago with the document Rerum Novarum, and has continued up to today. Looking to the signs of the times and ensuring that gospel values guide the making of the world. Of particular importance to this document, Leo XIV draws on the strong stance the Church has taken over the years defending the dignity of work and laborers, the principles of solidarity and subsidiarity, the need for peace, and the primacy of the human person, created in the image and likeness of God. This social doctrine, he points out, was not devised at a desk, but arose from the lived experience of the Church in the world, remaining close to those who suffer. Where there exists inequality, lack of transparency, or abuse of power, the Church must speak up. A point he makes, even when it regards the Church itself. In this regard, listening to the victims of spiritual, economic, institutional, sexual, and power-based abuse, as well as abuses of conscience, is an integral part of a journey towards justice, which includes acknowledging the harm done. In this way, the Church will be able to bear credible witness to society that seeking the common good together, with shared responsibility and fraternity, is not a utopia, but a real possibility. We speak not over and against the world from the outside as if we are perfect, but from within, seeking the common good with all. It is with this firmly established that we can finally move on to the meat of the document, in which he addresses the issues technology poses in our day, Chapter 3, and the appropriate responses necessary to ensure protection of human dignity, Chapters 4 and 5. Returning to this image of the Tower of Babel, Leo asks, what are we building? Drawing to mind the dangers that technology, particularly as means of power, poses to our world. When it becomes the standard by which everything is judged, it begins to dictate what matters and what can be discarded, reducing creation to an object of exploitation and human beings to mere cogs in a system driven toward ever greater efficiency. This becomes the case not in science fiction, but as we are witnessing today, when power is concentrated in the hands of a few. When this happens, it tends to become opaque and evade public oversight, increasing the risk of distorted forms of development that give rise to new dependencies, exclusions, manipulations, and inequalities. Such is the case with the growing use of artificial intelligence. While potentially a powerful tool that could be used for the benefit of humanity, we are witnessing all too often its negative effects. In particular, he highlights 3. The ease with which results are obtained, encouraging excessive reliance and the search for ready-made answers. The impression of objectivity, overlooking the fact that they reflect the cultural assumptions of those who designed and trained them, and the simulation of human communication, creating the illusion of a relationship with a real personal subject. Without constant vigilance towards these concerns, we run the risk of entrusting an algorithm in practice with the power to select who is worthy or not, without anyone bearing responsibility for that judgment, and amplify the power of those who already possess economic resources, expertise, and access to data. This is a great danger to democratic processes, social justice, privacy, the environment, and the very nature of the human person. And herein lies the ultimate issue. At the root of these problems lies a technocratic and post-humanist mentality that tends to regard the human person as an object to be manipulated or a resource to be optimized. Pope Leo recognizes that there are some in this world that see humanity as a problem to be fixed. For the transhumanist and post-humanist, everything that appears as a limit, incapacity, illness, old age, suffering, vulnerability, tends to be seen primarily as a defect to be corrected, rather than as a reality through which our humanity matures and opens itself to relationship. For them, technology is not there to aid the human person. By design, it is there to replace it. As Christians, this is a fundamental flaw in thinking. In the face of this distorted worldview, Leo reminds us that humanity flourishes not despite limitations, but often through them. It is our limitations that lead to compassion, generosity, spiritual experience, and worship, the very things that make humanity magnificent. To eliminate suffering entirely, he writes, would mean extinguishing love and desire as well. While humanity does seek self-transcendence, we do not achieve this through technological divination, but through love. The love of Christ who brought humanity beyond itself to attain the fullest truth of our being. So how do we do this? What can protect us from technology that dehumanizes and enslaves? Leo suggests 3 things. First, we must rediscover truth as a common good. We find ourselves in a time when truth itself is under attack. Objective, universally agreed upon truths no longer exist, and there are some actively working against them, spreading disinformation and fake news, while others withhold information as private commodities. To combat this, he suggests that our world needs norms for transparency, protection of personal data, serious journalism, forums of debate, new forms of education, and the integration of knowledge. Second, we must protect the dignity of work. Work should be a good that enhances our human dignity by giving our lives personal fulfillment and helping us mature. We are at our best when we can provide for ourselves and our families, and we end the day with a sense of accomplishment. Automation, robotics, and AI have made this increasingly difficult in recent years, stripping people of honest work. Those who are not as able as others are replaced and cast aside, all the while metrics like GDP give the indication that economies are healthy while people are suffering. In response, the Pope calls for just laws and methods of redistribution to correct these imbalances, as previous popes have insisted on, but it requires more than that. Transparency and accountability, inclusion and access, measures to ensure equality in the workplace. Third, we must safeguard freedom against all forms of dependence and commercialization. The sad reality of many businesses today is that they thrive on human weakness, meaning that the person is treated as a means rather than an end. This is the case, Leo points out, for the consumer and the worker. Consumers are tracked, hacked, and treated as nothing more than data to be exploited, and labor is abused to the point of slavery. Millions of people around the world suffer to ensure that the economy produces profits for the few. It is not an exaggeration that he refers to this as colonization. Again, he calls for transparency, in this case related to supply chains, and clear ethical verification so that the world does not unwittingly support slavery of any kind. Because if not, the world is headed towards war in all of its forms. And you thought the Matrix was a joke. Leo concludes the document with a warning against the arms race of today. One not just of bombs or physical weapons, but of information, technology, and culture. While the world seemed to be moving towards global peace after World War II, Leo remarks that globalization has provoked fundamentalist, identity-based, and nationalistic reactions today. New technologies have led to exclusion, isolation, and dependencies on a world stage, all the while producing autonomous weapons and artificial moral agents. The combination of the two makes violence both more desirable and accessible, a grim combination. As Christians, then, the challenge is before us. We must choose whether to fuel the mentality of force, even if only through indifference, cynicism, lies, or hatred, or to preserve the mindset of peace, with truth, moderation, closeness, and care. A task that is achieved only with Christ, lived out through the mystery of the Eucharist. For Leo, Eucharistic spirituality is one of unity and love. It reveals God entering into the human condition, opening us up to justice and sharing with a preferential concern for those who are burdened by poverty or marginalization. The Church, nourished by the Eucharist, is called to make visible a different paradigm, one that preserves human connections, gives a voice to the invisible, and ensures that processes are aimed at respecting people's dignity. It is in the reception of the Eucharist that we are transformed into what we receive, the body of Christ, a body of collaboration, fasting and prayer, and working for the common good. Not unlike Nehemiah's community, rebuilding the city of Jerusalem used at the beginning. Because really, isn't that what we're doing? Isn't that what this Christian life is about? It's not about GDP or advanced technologies or efficiency. It's about the body of Christ. It's about Jesus coming to be like us so that we could come to be like him. Humble, merciful, concerned for the least and lowest in society. It's not about making the world into our kingdom or expecting everything to be perfect just because we believe in God. It's about having the hope of Mary and her Magnificat, to recognize the presence of God beneath our messiness of human events, and to know that God is turning the world upside down. In a world headed towards the Matrix, Leo wants us to be weavers of hope like Mary, working together to build the eternal city.